Welcome back to patreon.com/the Derrick Lamon Experience, your one-stop shop for your gaming news. Before we get started with our topics for this week, I know this is not a gaming topic, and everybody's like, why would you say that? I'm gonna start off by saying this because this shaped me like in my formative, like the years like where you graduate high school and you're entering adulthood. I want to say rest in peace to Irving Lorenzo, aka Irv Gotti. Irv passed away Wednesday, February 5th of 2025. I know there's this recency bias that Irv was and Ja were never successful, and that's bullshit. Murder Inc. was the sound for a few years. You could not turn on the radio or turn on MTV or turn on BET without seeing a Murder Inc. artist in a video or all of them in one video. Irv Gotti is responsible for the sound. He's also responsible for bringing DMX to Def Jam. Took Lior out to Yonkers while X had his jaws wired, and X was freestyling with his jaws wired, and he was freestyling so hard that he ripped the wiring out. Um, Irv is responsible for kind of cultivating the relationship between Def Jam and Jay-Z. Irv was Jay's DJ, and they were trying to get ain't no nigga on the radio, and Irv said y'all need to go holler at Kevin Lyles from Def Jam, and they went to Kev with a brown bag full of money, and Kev said I can't take that, but what I can do is put your song on the soundtrack, and ain't no nigga ended up on the Nutty Professor soundtrack, and that birthed the relationship between Rockefeller and Def Jam. Um, one of Jay's biggest singles from the Hard Knock Life album, Can I Get It? That was actually originally a Ja Rule song. And Irv and Jay knowing each other since like 89, had a great relationship. Irv played the record for Jay, and Jay was like, damn. And then Jay left the office, went downstairs, and by the time he got downstairs, he called Irv like, yo, I need that record. And Irv's like, I can't give it to you. That's Ja's record. He's like, come on, man, I need that record. He's like, let me run it by Ja. So Irv hollers at Ja. Ja said, give him the record, just, hold the boy down. So they came up with the agreement that Jay would get the record, but he had to leave Ja on there, and it was a way for him to break Irv to break Ja Rule as an artist. Uh, Irv gave Ashanti her first shot by putting her on a Big Pun record and then bringing her to Murder Inc. I know that the end, and it was really kind of bad between them, but Irv and Ashanti made magic together. Ja Rule, Jay-Z, and DMX turned the building around at Def Jam. They literally turned the building around. So that Murder Inc. sound, impeccable. And I know because of 50 Cent, the recency bias, everybody acts like they weren't a thing, but they 100% were a big mover and shaker in the music business. So we want to send our condolences to the Lorenzo family and all surrounding family and friends. This one hurts. Rest in peace to Gotti, man. Rest in peace to Gotti, man. It's murder. Anyway, let's get down to brass tacks. I want to start by saying congratulations to the good folks over at Nintendo. So the Nintendo Switch numbers are in, and it's still growing. Obviously, hardware-wise, 150.86 million units have been sold. And as far as software, 1,359,080 million units has been. I think that's different. That would have to be billions or something like that. I don't know, but that's what they reported. Um, Obviously, the Switch was a phenomenal, phenomenal generation for Nintendo. Excuse me. A lot of people thought they should have got out of the console business with the Wii U because it just was not successful. The Wii U only sold 13 million units, and that's dead in the water as far as a console goes. So props to them for turning it around. We do have the official date of the Switch 2 Nintendo Direct that is taking place on April 2nd of this year. I will, as soon as we get closer, the times are out there, but I can't remember them and I don't have them pulled up right now. And it's probably better if I give you a reminder as we get closer to the date so you can mark that down in your calendars. But again, congratulations to Nintendo. Actually, I take that back. I do have the information here, but I will remind you as we get closer. So the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct has a time as well as a date. Again, that's going to be 6 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. That's 9 a.m. Eastern time and 2 p.m. in the UK. 6 a.m. Pacific is crazy because, like, if you're on the West Coast, like, you have to get up at 6 a.m. to watch a Nintendo Direct, but it is what it is. Nintendo has said it will use this Nintendo Direct to share a closer look at the Switch 2 following its drive-by reveal of the console last month. The reveal offered a look at the Switch 2 form factor, a glimpse at what it looks like, Mario Kart 9, and teased a potential mouse mode for the new Joy-Con. There's still a number of unanswered questions about Switch 2, including what the mysterious new Joy-Con button does and how powerful the console is and what its new ports might be used for. Direct will also hopefully give us the full Switch 2 launch lineup of games as well as a release date, which is expected to be at some point between June and September of this year. Fingers crossed, Nintendo announces the Switch 2 price, which analysts predict will be $400. That's not a bad price considering the PlayStation 5 Pro came out this year at $700, just saying. We are starting to build a picture of what to expect on Switch 2 in terms of games. There's a long list of rumored third party titles coming to the console. In an interview with IGN, Civilization 7 developer Fraxis called Switch 2's apparent Joy-Con mouse definitely intriguing. French video game and accessories maker Nacon, publisher of the likes of Greedfall 2, Test Drive Unlimited, and RoboCop Rogue City, has said it has Switch 2 games ready to go. The long awaited Hollow Knight Silk Song is also rumored to be set for the Switch 2, and just this week, EA said Madden, FC, and The Sims would all be a great fit for the Switch 2. I think everybody saw the money that the first Switch made, and they're just like, yeah, we're all in. I think they did a really, really good job of getting third party developers back on their side. You got to take your hats off to Nintendo. They really built something special, and I can't wait to see this thing. I'm not gonna lie to you. So, our good friends over at Video Games Chronicles are talking about the price of the Switch 2. Um, and this is based on things that they've been told in interviews with, the top brass at Nintendo. Switch 2 price will consider the affordability customers expect from Nintendo, says the president. Inflation and the exchange rate will also affect the Switch 2 price, says Nintendo's president. Keep in mind that we are under the situation where the president of the United States is imposing tariffs, stiffer tariffs on other countries. A lot of goods are imported from other countries, generally electronics, all consoles, whether it's Xbox. Well, I don't know if Xbox is made here in the US. I know the PlayStation and the Nintendo consoles are made by Foxconn. I would imagine Xbox more than likely is too. I believe Foxconn also maybe made the iPhone form factors as well. I can't remember. Anyway, during a Q&A following Nintendo's quarter three financial results, Nintendo president Shintaro Furukawa was asked about the company's thoughts on hardware pricing. Specifically, Furukawa was asked if there was any change to Nintendo's stance on what constitutes an acceptable price point, given various global economic factors. Furukawa replied that not only does Nintendo have to take into account Japan's increased inflation rate, it also has to consider that the exchange rate environment has changed considerably since the Switch launched in 2017. However, he noted that Nintendo also has to consider the affordability that our customers expect from Nintendo products, saying the company needs to take all these factors into account when considering the price of its products. Furukawa said it was taking all the above into account when pricing Switch, but it had nothing to announce at this time. He also said there are no plans to change the price of the original Switch at this time. Interesting. Earlier this week, Furukawa told Japanese press that Nintendo will put measures in place to prevent resellers from significantly impacting Nintendo Switch 2 launch supplies. And that was an issue with the PlayStation 5 and the Series X and S consoles, more so with the PlayStation 5. It was like really hard to get one. It was really hard, but there was a chip shortage, and that's because of the pandemic. Apparently, Microsoft had made some sort of deal before the pandemic got out of hand, and that's where there were more Xbox Series consoles available. Now the PlayStation 5 is readily available. You can get one anywhere, pretty much. Furukawa said Nintendo has made preparations based on its past experience and planned to prepare enough Switch 2 console into inventory to meet demand. That is great. I love to hear that. According to an earlier report, Nintendo was planned to launch Switch 2 in late 2024, but priority was given to ensure the initial inventory of the successor console and a lineup of software titles at the time of its launch in an attempt to avoid widespread reselling. So, like we thought, it was initially going to come last year, but they wanted to have some stronger launch stuff available, and they wanted to have stronger software available. Um, that doesn't bother me. I want the best launch lineup possible when this thing comes. I would love a 3D Mario at launch. I would love a Zelda game at launch. Mario Kart 9 more than likely going to be there at launch, and then we're gonna have third party games. There's rumors that we're gonna get Red Dead Redemption 2 running on this thing. They're comparing it in terms of power to a PlayStation 4. So I have no problem with them holding it back a little bit, letting it cook a little longer, letting us get a better first party lineup and third party lineup to support this thing at launch. So I am very, very ecstatic, and I've already put in a request for the day off on that date. I'm not gonna lie, so I look forward to it. In other news, where are we at? I'm sorry. Um, Speaking of next generation consoles, Nintendo's going to beat Sony and Microsoft to the next generation like they did last time, but truly, it's like they're actually still operating on the previous generation in terms of raw power and things like that. So I kind of consider them like different levels, if you will. Let's say PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are tier 1 consoles, and then the Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 would be tier 2 consoles, and then the Series S will it's a tier one and a half, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, this article comes from N4G.com. PlayStation 6 will not be discless, claims former Sony CEO. Thank God, because um, they're getting rid of physical media everywhere, and it's just absolutely disenchanting to see. And have a fucking list of of records that I want on vinyl. Like I still believe in physical media, and that goes down to gaming too. When it comes to my Switch 2 titles, yeah, I'm probably gonna go physical on those as well. Not gonna lie. Since the PS5 Pro was released without a disc drive, Sony fans are a bit wary on whether that would be the case with their next gen console. Thankfully, former Sony CEO claims that a PlayStation 6 will not be discless and explains why. When Sony's premium console was revealed in November of 2024, fans noticed that it does not have a built in disc drive, requiring you to purchase an external one. This caused a bit of trouble for everyone, but the point is that fans started questioning whether this heralds the end of physical games and the transition to digital only or not. Sony's upcoming console, PS6, is still in the works, but the question arose, will PS be discless as well? If you go into a Best Buy or anything like that, their 4K Blu-ray section, their Blu-ray section in totality is almost exclusively wiped out. We saw this with CDs when we started being able to hold full libraries in our pockets with the iPod and then the iPhone and then all these other phones and then streaming and stuff like that. We saw this coming. I remember having these conversations with my cousin. We had an indie label and they were like, "You would go get some CDs." I'm like, "Nobody's gonna be listening to CDs." They're like, "Of course they will." I'm like, "No, they won't. We're going digital. I promise you." They're like, "No, they won't." I'm like, you guys are going to see. And then all of a sudden, our entire music libraries were in our phone, thanks to Apple, right? Innovation happens. Um, Once we got to the last, like toward the end of the 360 and PS3 generation, where not your game saves were on a hard drive, a whole game could be on a hard drive. Like they had a digital storefront. It's like, here we go. And then the PS4 and the Xbox One digital downloads from day one because you have a digital storefront. We're here now. And then we went from these 500 gig HD, uh, standard hard drives to SSDs and stuff like that, and adding external hard drives and stuff like that. And that just killed off physical media because games come out at midnight. Who wants to stand in line at Walmart or GameStop when they can just pre order the game from the PlayStation or Xbox store months in advance and download it in advance? And then when that clock switches over, here we go, I'm jumping in. In a recent interview, Reese Kiwi talks. Riley talked with Sean Layton. Mr. Layton is currently a strategic advisor for Tencent and is a former chairman of SIE Worldwide Studios. I miss Sean Layton in that position, just saying. Uh, President and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment American, Executive Vice President and COO of Sony Network Entertainment International. When they came to the topic of the PS6, Kiwi Talk stated that the fact the PS5 Pro is discless and asked if the PS6 would be discless as well, adding that Sony could probably get away with it. Actually, the quote is, "Actually, I think that Sony can't get away with it," said Sean. Excuse me. He continues by saying that Sony would lose a lot of customers since not everyone is able to make the jump from physical to digital that easily, reasons being bad connections, etc. We do not have like extremely great broadband internet everywhere in the United States of America. So certainly not everywhere in the world. I'm just telling you that right now. Sean goes on to say that would alienate a huge chunk of their market. Sean gives an example. PlayStation is very popular with athletes who have a lot of downtime when traveling and like to carry their own PlayStations and enjoy some gaming. You can't expect a good internet connection in every corner of the world. The same goes for military bases around the world, which can't have internet connection where PS is popular as well. He's got a point there. The ability to do a diskless solution is really the key point of that, which part of your market cannot be served by that, which part of your market would be damaged by going diskless. I'm sure they're doing research on it, and there will be a tipping point when there's some percentage where you could say, okay, that is fine. We can turn our back on that part of the market. But Sony's market is globally so huge. I think it would be hard for them to go fully diskless even with the next generation. I think Sean is right. I think he's 100% right. People just think that, great internet is everywhere, and that's just not the case. That's just not the case. And we don't know what's going to happen. Certainly, like I said, the tariffs that are going to be imposed um, are going to affect importing goods, and these consoles are not made in the United States of America. It's going to affect the cost. So the last thing somebody's going to want to do is pay a premium cost and again not get a disk drive. Now, the disk drive is $80. Call me lazy. I haven't got one for my PS5 Pro yet. I don't know. I got my daughter an Astrobot for Christmas, and I still have. So she has a PS5, the disc launch model, and I have the disc launch model as well. So, the other one is in the living room. So when I want to play Astrobot, I have to go get the disc out of her room and take it into the room. Now I could solve that by just buying the digital copy, which eventually I will. That's not the point though. I do need to get a disk drive for my PlayStation 5 Pro. Honestly, I might do that this week. I don't know. We shall see. There's some other things I want to take care of. But I think Sean is right. Um I don't think that they can afford to go diskless. I still think that a lot of people are really confused about this internet situation. It is not great internet in every corner of the world. And the athlete thing hit it right on the head. Athletes and at the same time, artists who are on tour bus, if you're going like driving around the country, and even if the bus has Wi-Fi, the signal's got to come from somewhere. You, we could be streaming music. I drive into the country to my friend's house, and then you get into all those trees and stuff, and the signal sucks, and you can't stream your music. Luckily, my car has a hard drive in it with a bunch of music, so when I lose service, I just go to my hard drive and play something. But people don't realize that, like we don't have great internet everywhere in the world, and that's still a concern. So having a diskless console is not the best idea. I'm just saying. Um, like I know people like the Series S. They're like, "Oh, my internet's down, but I'm gonna play some Fortnite." It's like you can't. Oh crap, that's right, because Fortnite's an online game. Okay, well I'll play this. You can't play that either. Well, why can't I? Well, you bought a digital game because it's a digital only console. I get it, but like the license has to be verified. So I can't play anything while my internet's down? Bingo. Like those are things that people have to take into uh into context, like when it comes to digital consoles and all digital libraries. Like you're going to run into some issues. You're really going to run into some issues. Also, I just think that having a physical game collection is actually really cool. So that's just me. Speaking of tariffs, this comes from our good friends over at IGN. Trump's tariffs on video games would cause significant harm to everyday Americans, the ESA warns. Um, as U.S. President Donald Trump's controversial import tariffs take effect, the Entertainment Software Association, the ESA, has urged the administration to consult with the private sector to avoid harm to the video game industry. In an updated statement issued to IGN, the ESA called on Trump administration to speak with the private sector to find ways to sustain the economic growth supported by our sector. Quote, video games are one of the most popular and beloved forms of entertainment for Americans of all ages. Tariffs on video game devices and related products would negatively impact hundreds of millions of Americans and would harm the industry's significant contribution to the U.S. economy. We look forward to working with the administration and Congress to find ways to sustain the economic growth supported by our sector. The ESA represents several major video game companies, including Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony Interactive Entertainment, Square Enix, Ubisoft, Epic Games, and Electronic Arts. Over the weekend, President Trump signed an order imposing tariffs on Canada, China, and Mexico. The move elicited retaliatory tariffs from Canada and Mexico, while the Ministry of Commerce in China said it would file a lawsuit with the World Trade Organization. The tariffs are set to go live Tuesday, but Trump said he will pause the tariffs on Mexico for a month following a call with the country's president. While the tariffs are currently targeted at Canada, China, and Mexico, President Trump has also stated that tariffs would definitely happen with the European Union. When asked about Britain, Trump told reporters, quote, we'll see how things work out. Quote, the UK is way out of line. We'll see, but the European Union is really out of line, said President Trump. The UK is out of line, but I think that one can be worked out. But the European Union is an atrocity what they've done. Analysts have been discussing the potential impact of tariffs on the industry as the situation has evolved. On X, aka Twitter, MST financial advisor David Gibson said the China tariff would have zero impact on the Switch 2 in the US, but tariffs on Vietnam could change that. Wow. The tweet says, quote, China tariff impact on Switch 2 launch in the US, zero. When Trump had his first term, Nintendo with Hoyston decided to try and get 50% of production from Vietnam. So Vietnam production will supply to the US and China, etc., will supply to the rest of the world. Smart. Now, obviously, if tariffs go on to Vietnam imports to the US, then that changes the outcome. PS5 not so lucky, but Sony might scale up non-China production to help solve the problem. And in a recent interview with IGN, Super Juice newsletter author Juice Van Drunen also considered the impact of tariffs on the potential cost of Nintendo's new console, saying the broader economic environment, particularly potential tariff impacts from the US incoming administration, could significantly influence consumer reception. Um, I hope this is not the case, but look, y'all voted for it. That's all I'm gonna say. That's y'all voted for it. I've been very, very vocal about my stance. I favored Vice President Kamala Harris. That's who I voted. Um, a lot of y'all voted for this. And if you guys are like, you're getting political and I don't want to hear this shit, Derek, you simply can stop listening. That's all I'm going to say. There's some things I'm never going to support, and hatred is one of them. Uh, Decency, standard human rights. I'm in support of all that stuff, and he doesn't seem to be. So here we are. So if you don't want to listen, don't fucking listen. I don't care. I truly do not care. But hopefully these tariffs won't cause a huge problem. Um, but I'm not gonna lie, when I heard about these tariffs, that was like the first thing I thought. I'm like, a lot of goods that we acquire come, from China, and video games is one. Like I said, Foxconn, I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check. Products made at Foxconn. Yeah, iPhone, BlackBerry, Nokia devices, Motorola handset, gaming consoles, Nintendo 3DS, DS models, Sega models, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Wii U. Obviously they haven't updated this list. Let's see. Is the PlayStation 5 made at Foxconn? Foxconn will manufacture PlayStation gaming consoles in Vietnam, but most PlayStation 5 consoles are currently made in China. Um, where are Xbox Series X manufactured? Malaysia, Taiwan, and the United States. Okay, different. Um, but like I said, a lot of stuff comes from Foxconn, which is in China. And when I heard about the tariffs, that was the first thing that came to mind. Like, this is going to affect gaming consoles. I guarantee it will. And here's the proof. The proof is in the pudding. So I don't know. We shall see. Speaking of the good folks over at Xbox, this comes from our good friends over at VGC. Xbox multi-platform plan can succeed like Sega, says former PlayStation boss. Another Sean Layton article. Former PlayStation executive Sean Layton has said that Microsoft's multi-platform plan can succeed like Sega's, but that it will make it harder for Microsoft to build FOMO. FOMO is an acronym for fear of missing out for Xbox consoles. Layton, who was chairman of the company's Worldwide Studios Group when he left Sony in 2019, recently appeared on Kiwi Talks YouTube channel. Among the topics discussed was Microsoft's recent initiative to release major games on PlayStation 5. Quote, multi-platform is a strategy, particularly in a world where the cost of development is increasing so dramatically. And this is true to a certain extent. Layton said when asked for his opinion on Microsoft's new approach, quote, what does it do for their brand? It makes the conversation harder to create, the FOMO, aka fear of missing out. You're trying to do that by bringing everybody to your platform by saying, if you're not here, you're missing out. But if it's available on all platforms, that's one of your marketing tactics you can't use. And he's 100% right. Multiple former Xbox exclusives have recently been announced for PlayStation 5, most recently Forza Horizon 5 and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and boss Phil Spencer has said there are, quote, no red lines for what could come next. He said that to Destin Legary, and then Destin left IGN right after that. I have more on this on The Last Word. If you subscribe to Patreon, The Last Word is released on Sundays at 2 p.m., and then it goes to the free feeds on the following Saturday. Quote, we've seen it before. I was in the business when Sega brought their Dreamcast titles to PS2, and time then Sega became a software only company and have had a great transformation in that sense, Layton continued. So it does have historical precedence. Sega's final console, the Dreamcast, was released in 1998. That's incorrect. It was maybe in Japan. Maybe in Japan. In the US, it was released 9/9 of 99. I'll never forget that date because also MTV promoted the VMAs so hard that year, the last VMAs of this decade, 9/9/99. So the Dreamcast came out that same day as well. It was released in 1998, maybe in Japan. It was discontinued in March of 2021. Following this, Sega began publishing titles on other platforms with varied success. However, in the last decade, the company has leveraged developer Atlas to create multiple of the highest rated JRPGs of all time. This has coincided with an explosion in popularity for its like a Dragon series, formerly the Yakuza series, and cross-media success with franchises such as Sonic the Hedgehog. Earlier this week, another former Sony executive claimed that there were no victims in Xbox's multi-platform era. Former PlayStation VP said that, quote, Xbox is now an entertainment provider and not just a disc producer and disc distributor. So if we think about the analogy that maybe PlayStation is HBO, Microsoft is Netflix, and Nintendo is Disney, then their job is to get incredibly interactive and engaging entertainment out to as many people as possible. When Game Pass was created, people were literally calling it the Netflix of gaming. So um he's not exactly off. However, when you think about certain things, um, like number one, Disney Plus lost 700,000 subscribers last month, I think. Um, I wouldn't exactly agree with this analogy, but it's not too far off. HBO is losing money, keep in mind. But then PlayStation also hasn't released very many first party titles for the PlayStation 5. So keep that in mind as well, right? If I want to watch The Sopranos, I know I can go to Max, which used to be HBO Max. If I want to watch The Wire, I know I can go there. If I want to play The Last of Us Part 3, if it ever actually exists, I have to wait on Naughty Dog to actually develop that game, finish, and wait for Sony to publish that game, right? Which is funny because The Last of Us Part 2, I'm sorry, The Last of Us TV show season 2 is coming here in a couple of months on HBO, but I digress. Uh, Sean Layden is right about a lot of things. He's an industry vet. He knows what he's talking about. I felt like PlayStation was a much better ecosystem when Sean Layden was running things. The Jim Ryan era is just really, really fickle and terrible. Herman Holst, I don't know what he deserved. He did deserve to be head of first party studios, but no, sorry. Like what the fuck? Hopefully they turn things around. I don't know. I don't know. But PlayStation 4 was on fire when Sean Layden was in charge. Like Sean Layden was that guy, and people still love him. You know, Sean Layden's a gamer. Like you have a conversation with him, you know he's an actual gamer. I don't think Jim Ryan ever picked up a controller. Like I'm sure he did because he would have to see things like, hey, this is the new Dual Sense and give it a whirl and stuff like that. But do I think Jim Ryan clocked out and went home and played video games? Well, he didn't punch a clock anyway because he's salaried. But do I think Jim Ryan went home and played video games? No. Do I think Reggie Fils-Aimé went home and played video games? Yes. Do I think Phil Spencer goes home and plays video games? Yes. Do I think Sarah Bond plays video games? Maybe not during the week, maybe on weekends, probably yes. Do I think Sean Layden plays video games? Yes. I don't think Jim Ryan is a game player. Nobody could ever convince me of that. Just telling you that right now. So, um, I miss Sean Layden being in charge of Worldwide Studios. I'm gonna keep saying that. I'm gonna keep on saying that. So, um, I don't know. This is all very interesting. This is all very, very interesting. Now, another former PlayStation executive, Adam Boyes, applauds Microsoft's agile gaming approach. If you remember Adam Boyes, he was in that video when the PlayStation 4 was like unveiled, and it's like, how do you share games? And it's him and Shuhei just passing the game disc back to each other. The other guy was Adam Boyes. Boyes, known by many for PlayStation's infamous How to Share Games PS4 video, was PlayStation's vice president of third party relations between 2012 and 2016. More recently, he was the CEO of Iron Galaxy, and he recently found a consultancy firm, Verato. Speaking in an interview with Gamertag Radio, Boys was asked for his opinion on Microsoft's increased focus on multi-platform releases. Multiple former Xbox exclusives have been announced for PS5, most recently Forza Horizon 5 and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And boss Phil Spencer has said there again, quote, no red lines for what could come next. Not everyone has reacted positively to the news, however, with some notable Xbox influencers even having publicly withdrawn support for the platform. They are mad and they are no longer holding the line. Well, some of them. Boyce said this quote, I understand why people have feelings about it and opinions because their idea is the identity of me choosing a brand and being beholden to that brand is unilateral, and therefore that should be the one source of all content, Boyce said. But I do think if we think of it in the analogy of they were a Blockbuster that became Netflix, and what I mean by this is when they began, it was about the physical unit being the entertainment experience in the living room, and that was a plastic player that you put your disc in and it plays. So you need to serve people with the physicality of it. I will point out, just off the record, Blockbuster actually had a chance. I don't remember if it was Redbox or if it was Netflix. I want to say it was Netflix. They had a chance to acquire them and they balked on it, and Netflix and Redbox put them out of business. And eventually, Netflix put Redbox the fuck out of business. I'm just saying. I remember when Redboxes were only like at like Walgreens, um, which if you're in a different place, it could be a Dwayne Reed, Walgreens, and then like sometimes a McDonald's and stuff like that. Neither here nor there. But anyway, Boys added, quote, retail and partnerships are important. You and I have both waited in many lines and many early morning openings to rush in there and sprint against everyone else. And I usually lost the race, by the way, to get to that console as fast as we possibly could. And it's just different now. Anytime I've stood in line for a console, they handed out tickets and stuff like that. I've told the story that I famously slept on the floor of the Walmart garden department of the Walmart in Warrenton, Missouri. The same, very same Walmart where I met Ronald Isley of the Isley Brothers at one point. Not gonna That was a really cool story. But anyway, I slept on the floor of the garden department to get a ticket for a PlayStation 3. Not gonna lie. So, the former PlayStation VP said that, quote, Xbox is now an entertainment provider and not just a disc producer and a disc distributor. So if we think about that, the analogy that maybe PlayStation is HBO, Microsoft is Netflix, and Nintendo is Disney, then their job is to get incredibly interactive and engaging entertainment out to as many people as possible. And again, we just spoke about this analogy. He added, I understand why traditionalists are looking at that being like, I don't like change. I want it to only be where I want it to be. And that's the bit where my logic gaps starts to break. Because when Phil Spencer and his team are putting amazing content on more platforms, who's the victim? I ask a lot of people who's the victim, and there aren't any except for people who are like, I only want it where I bought it, and that's what I expect. To the point, I would say this Adam Boyce is at PlayStation during a very profitable time. PlayStation 4 generation is looked upon as one of the best generations in gaming. They were not putting Uncharted or The Last of Us or um what was another big game that came out during that time? Because they had some fucking heavy hitters last generation. God of War or Ghost of Tsushima or the Uncharted Lost Legacy. It doesn't matter. Like those are just like the service ones off the top of my head. There were a lot of great fucking games in the PlayStation 4 library, right? They weren't putting those games on Xbox and they didn't start putting them on PC till later. So like his statement, I understand it, but it's like also you were part of the machine. Well, like, let's not act like you were not part of the fucking machine. And who does it hurt? If I spend $500 on your console for exclusives and you put those said exclusives elsewhere, it hurts me because I know if I go buy a Nintendo, I can play Mario and Zelda, this, that, and the third, and people who have a PlayStation only or an Xbox only cannot play those games. Exclusives are the lifeblood of your console, and I talk about this more on the next episode of The Last Word, which again comes on Patreon on Sunday afternoons, and then it goes to the free feeds the following Saturday. Boyce said he, quote, applauds Xbox for being agile enough in a changing and transitioning market to expand, but agreed that Microsoft's multi platform strategy presents challenges when it comes to the value proposition of its future consoles. Yes, yes, it does. And also, don't applaud them. It's not like they made this decision because, no, we don't want to be anti consumer. We feel like you should be able to play Halo if you only have a PlayStation 5. For the same reason they created Game Pass. They were behind and they needed a way to get back in the game. They can't make up the difference in consoles, and they're effectively killing off their console. And if you're already in R&D for the next console, which we know they are, what's to stop Satya Nadella and the board of directors and the investors from saying, "Hey, we're not going to produce another console because obviously when you sell a brand new console, they're selling it at a loss. Consoles generally aren't profitable until like the second year that they exist, second or third year, something like that. Generally, they're not turning a profit in the first year. And you have stocking issues and stuff like that. So what's to say the top brass at what's to stop the top brass at Microsoft from saying we're not doing another console? We're going to go Sega on you. And if they did it this time, look at it this way. Sega Master System 1, Sega Genesis 2, Sega Saturn 3, Sega Dreamcast 4. Now you have the CD and the 32X in there as well, but those are iterations on the Genesis, right? So we'll say four console generations for Sega. Xbox One, Xbox 362, Xbox One, 3, Xbox Series X and S. If they stopped, they would be at four consoles just like Sega was. That'd be crazy. Now, the timing is different because, well, the Master System came out in the 80s, so, or maybe yeah, because the Genesis was at market before the Super Nintendo was, and the Super Nintendo came to the US in 91, I want to say. So, from mid 80s to early 2000s, 20 some odd years, early 2000s, because Microsoft basically stepped in when Sega left, early 2000s to 2020s, 20 years, so about the same time. Which, console generations used to be about 5, 6 years. Four times five, 20. So give or take, it's about the same. And again, so Boys goes on to say, quote, "You're absolutely right that when we're trying to sell people a new version of a console, is it 8K? Is it 16K? Is it 32K? Where are we going from here? Right now, I'm happy with the number of Ks and the fidelity. It's great. Then the value proposition changes." In another recent Gamertag radio interview, Spencer discussed where Xbox console hardware fits with its new, more open approach to multi-platform game development. Um, in that article, Phil Spencer explains why you should buy an Xbox in its multi-platform era. We want to win on capabilities. Interesting. Since the start of last year, Microsoft has bought an increased number of games to rival platforms, and its gaming CEO Phil Spencer has said there are now no red lines for the third time tonight, for which its games could port to the next. Its new marketing campaign even proclaims that virtually any device is now an Xbox. This is true. This has left many Xbox console owners wondering where their devices fit in Microsoft's plans for an even more open ecosystem. Phil Spencer was asked about this in a new interview with Gamertag Radio. Quote, "I want people to pick hardware based on the capabilities of that hardware and how that fits into the choices that they want to make about where they want to play. And we want our hardware to win based on the hardware capabilities that we have." You had the more powerful hardware, but or at least in your eyes, you did. Developers like the PlayStation 5. We know because they all um, they all kind of oohed and awed when they heard about the developer tools. Like they were really like the developers were geeked about that SSD in the PS5. Let's just say that. Like they were truly geeked. Phil goes on to say, "I think the difference that we've seen in the last 20 years, and I think this is good because I come from building games, is it's really games first, not platform first. Most of the games that you or I will talk about run across so many different platforms, and those are the games that are having success. Those are the games that are at the top of the charts. I want to build a platform that services those creators, the creators that are trying to meet people on every screen." In the same interview, Spencer reiterated that Xbox intends to release more of its games on more platforms in the future, but he also emphasized that the brand has a future in hardware. Microsoft first announced last February that it's actively working on its next generation console. Quote, "Let's say it, our own hardware. I think it's fundamental about what Xbox is," Spencer told Gamertag Radio. "It's not lost to me that box is in the name of our brand. In the position that I'm in, I look at hardware as a critical part of what we do, but we're not trying to gatekeep the games off other places for the benefit of it. You're shooting yourself in the you're literally this is cutting off your nose to spite your face. In the truest sense, this is cutting off your nose to spite your face." Phil says, "Let's go build innovative hardware. that people want to use to play, whether that's in their hands, whether it's on the television, or even other places. He added. Also, really quick sidebar for all the people thinking that if Xbox has a handheld next generation, that's going to turn the tide. That's not going to turn the tide. I'm sorry, it's just not. Can it run those games natively? Well, based on xCloud, it probably could. But I don't think that's gonna make up the difference. I think that you guys are really losing your mind. That's true delusion. True delusion. Phil also says, and I love our hardware team. I spent some time with them just this week looking at the roadmap that they have. I think we're learning a lot from this, like Steam Deck and what it does mean for our games to be there. ROG Ally, Lenovo, what does Xbox mean on those platforms? I don't think we're tuned. I don't think we're tuned it perfectly yet. And I've spent a whole lot of time with the team on that, but I want to make progress there. In the same interview, Spencer confirmed that Xbox intends to support Nintendo Switch 2 with ports of its own games. I was exchanging emails for Kawai-san, the CEO of Nintendo. I gave him a big congrats and said my old eyes appreciate the larger screen. Um, if they were to bring the Gears of War stuff to Nintendo Switch 2, I would probably play it there. I can tell you I'm going to play if that Marcus Phoenix collection is real, I'm definitely playing it on PlayStation 5. I'm not gonna lie. And I might play it on Xbox too. I've played Red Dead Redemption 2 on PC, PS, and Xbox. I've played the first Redemption on PlayStation and Xbox. I played GTA 4 on Xbox. I'm sorry, GTA 5 on Xbox and PlayStation. And I've played GTA 4 on both. I have not played GTA 3 on both, but I've played it on the PlayStation 2 and on the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. I will play a game multiple times. I will play it on different platforms. Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4, for instance. If it's a game I love, I'll play it on any platform it's available on. So ideally, I may be the type of gamer that Phil's talking about. And that doesn't bother me. But other people who are like, I'm only buying one goddamn box because you're charging $500 plus for these things, I'm not going to buy both. And if I can play Sony's first party exclusives, we hope that they're going to turn it around. We hope that Naughty Dog continues to Naughty Dog, and we hope that Sony Santa Monica continues on their path. And if they do that, and it's like I'm only buying one box, well, if I buy the PlayStation 6 and I'm gonna get all these PlayStation shits and then I'm gonna get Microsoft's games either way, I'll buy the new PlayStation and I've already got a Switch too, so I'm set. So I'm set. The price went down on the Steam Deck and I took a look at it today and I'm like, not right now, but I really thought about it. I have a Nintendo Switch in front of me. I have a PlayStation Portal to the right of me. Like, but I like video games. Clearly, because I do this fucking show, but I really, really fucking like video games. Um, but as Sean Layton said, yeah, you can't create FOMO when you're putting games everywhere. You just can't. And saying there's no red line, Phil, you got to hold something back. You have to hold something back for the life of your own hardware. You've got these people working in R&D at another Xbox console, and how much is that going to cost? Shipping and shelf space and all that stuff. And doing like you're gonna do some kind of blowout event like you generally do. Satya Nadella and other people up at Microsoft are probably looking at like, maybe not, maybe not, maybe not, because Fire Stick, Samsung TV, this is an Xbox, that's an Xbox, a backbone controller for an iPhone, that's an Xbox. Like, probably fucking not, man. So right now, in R&D, before you start actually pumping out the dev kit for this console, like, cause you have to like dev kits exist, and then these other studios have to pay for them to port their game. Before you put out that goddamn dev kit, when you start showing, renderings of what the new console could look like, that's got to be approved by the board of directors. If they're looking around like, hey, we're not selling many games and we're giving away games on Game Pass and we're putting games elsewhere, and this is an Xbox and well, that's an Xbox per our commercial, why would we make an actual Xbox? Why would we make another one? These are questions you have to ask yourself. So I uh I don't know. This should be interesting. This should be very interesting. In other news, there is a rumor that there is a Game Pass price hike apparently coming, and this is also something I discussed on the last word. Microsoft is planning a new price increase for Game Pass subscriptions, and the change is scheduled to take effect on March 1st, less than a month. Information has already been transferred to official stores and resellers. The change will affect all regions where the service is available, constituting a global change. Prices have yet to be announced. So we will wait with bated breath to see if that's true. And it should have been in the grain of salt portion of the show. But again, I talk about this more on the last word. So I didn't want to go too deep into it on that point. Speaking of putting your games elsewhere, this comes from PSU.com. Demon Souls and Gran Turismo 7 are reportedly no longer coming to PC. According to sources close to admin of Icon era, Sony Interactive Entertainment is no longer planning PC ports of Demon Souls and Gran Turismo 7. In regards to Polyphony Digital's racing simulation title, the report claims that there was a PC version of the game in the works, but it was ultimately scrapped. Demon Souls, however, is not planned for the platform and is unlikely to ever receive a port. This leak is, quote, straight from a trusted member and comes through the admin of the forum. As you may know, we previously leaked the, quote, Ooze game and footage of Returnal for PC before it had been announced. You can easily Google those leaks. The admin was quick to note, however, that this is an indication of Sony backing out of its strategy of bringing many of its first party efforts to the PC. To date, we've seen a wealth of games come to PC, including God of War Ragnarok, The Last of Us Part 1, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, Returnal, Marvel Spider Man 2, Marvel Spider Man, Miles Morales, and more. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart also. And I'm trying to think of any other first party titles. Oh, Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West, just to name those off the top of my head. Um, I don't think that Sony needs to pull back totally on the PC stuff. I would like to see two separate trophy lists, one for console, one for PC, because that would incentivize a lot of us who've already played the game on our PlayStation console to play it again on PC. There are Steam achievements and Epic Game Store achievements, so that's a reason. But I think that you should still have two separate trophy lists. That's just my opinion. Um, Other than that, I would like to see them roll back the time more. I think it should be a minimum of 2 years before a first party title shows up on PC. And the time has gotten shorter and shorter, but I think it should be minimum 2 years. Because if you put it on PC and we've already bought the game on PlayStation, the people on PlayStation are looking at you like the lifeblood of the console is exclusivity. That's the easiest argument I have for that. And I just fucking said it. The life of the console is exclusivity. So you put this on PC and maybe it doesn't feel so special to people who only have a PlayStation. But again, I have a PlayStation. I've actually got a PS5 Pro, launch PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, PC, Switch, mini consoles. Plan on getting the Switch too. So again, I like video games. And if I like a game enough, I'll play it on multiple platforms. I literally just had this conversation with you guys. But I do think that they need to put some stuff in there, like again, 2 years minimum before a game goes from console to PC. Separate trophy list for PC versus console. Um, I would like to see more DualSense support on PC. Number one. Um, What else? I had a list of these things. I had a list of these things. I don't know. Um, I don't know. That's just how I feel. But if they repealed the PC stuff, I wouldn't be too upset about that. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, there's a lot of games I have in my Steam. Well, I probably have more. Let's see. So I'm gonna open my Epic Games library. I know it's in my Steam store because I looked at it while I was at work today, and they want me to sign back in. Jesus fucking Christ. Hey, hey, hey. Yes, continue. Close. Page is refreshing. Oh my god. And they sent me a text message, so I gotta put this code in. Let's see. 768-769. Oh my god. So many privacy settings. All this to get into my Epic Games library. Crazy. Um, so I have more in my Epic Games library as opposed to my Steam library. I will tell you that, number one. Um, and some of the games I actually have on console. Like Alan Wake 2, I have on Epic Game Store, but I also have it on PlayStation 5. So don't know what to tell you. Final Fantasy 7, I literally have that game anywhere you can buy it except for Apple iOS. I have it in Steam, have it on Xbox, have it on PlayStation. I have the PlayStation Mini with it on it. I have it on the Nintendo Switch. Like I love Final Fantasy 7. So wherever that game comes, like if they put it on fucking refrigerators, I'd buy it there too. I'm just telling you. And then lastly, again, as far as PlayStation goes, to cap off our show, this coming from VideoGamesChronicle.com, PlayStation is reportedly prepping a February state of play for Valentine's Week. That's according to reliable gaming insider Nate the Hate, who has been right as of late. Has been right, except for that Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 remake and rebirth. Him and Jez Corden both had that wrong. They definitely thought, because remember there were three games shown in the like teaser for the Xbox Developer Direct, and they're like the fourth game is going to be Final Fantasy 16. The fourth game fucking turned out to be Ninja Gaiden Black, and Ninja Gaiden 4. So. According to the user, PlayStation's next live stream is arriving in February. Asked by an ex-user for more exact timing, info on the state of play, the insider dropped a hint stating they would take place on the week commencing February 10th. Sony regularly puts out a state of play in January or February to reveal some of the titles it's planning to release during the first half of the calendar year. Last January, state of play featured deep dives on Stellar Blade and Rise of the Ronin, plus looks at Death Stranding 2 and Silent Hill. In February of 2023, a state of play focused on third-party titles such as Resident Evil 4, Street Fighter 6, and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Sony is planning to publish Death Stranding 2 and Ghosts of Yotei in 2025, while Marvel's Wolverine and Fair Games don't yet have release windows. This week, Sony announced its intention to shift away from offering PlayStation 4 games as part of its monthly PlayStation Plus offerings, which we covered last week. Starting in 2026, offering PS4 games will no longer be a key benefit of the service, with Sony instead turning its focus to providing PS5 titles. So, with that, I wonder if we're going to see cross-gen titles in this state of play. That's a big question. Sony told us they believed in generations, and then Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales was cross-generational. Horizon Forbidden West was cross-gen. Sifu was cross-gen. God of War Ragnarok was cross-gen. I think the only games off the top of my head that were not Sackboy Big Adventure was cross-gen. Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart. I think it was just those two. Oh, and Demon Souls remake. Those were the only three of the first year of PlayStation 5 year or year and a half. I believe those were the only three that weren't cross-gen titles. I could be wrong, but I remember those three specifically because they told us Ratchet and Clank was only possible on the PlayStation 5 because of the SSD, and then it was available on PC. And they were like, but you guys said, and then Returnal, I think that had a lot to do with the PlayStation 5 SSD, but they didn't say it's only possible here because it showed up on PC as well. Um, and then um Demon Souls remake, I don't know. Um, I don't know what the deal was with that, but I'm not a Souls guy, so it is what it is. Anyway, that's all I have for you, lads and lassies, today. Again, sending well wishes to the Lorenzo family. Rest in peace, Irv Gotti, aka Irving Lorenzo, aka Irv Gotti. Somebody put an arm around Ja, give Ja hugs and loves because him and Gotti were like brothers. And a part of music died tonight. So anyway, I'm gonna end this like I always do. Believe in yourself first and foremost because believe in yourself first and foremost because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. As always, my name is Derrick Lamon Jackson, and that is my time. Y'all have a good one. Peace out.